For as long as I can remember, I've always been interested in history. As a small child, I was always fascinated by the past. And when I went on family holidays, I used to insist that my parents took me around castles, churches and things like that. A strange preoccupation, I suppose, for a small child. I went on to study history at university and became first a research fellow, then a teaching fellow, before becoming a field archaeologist. I then became a lecturer in history and in archaeology, and have also advised on a number of historical building restoration projects. I am fascinated by the history of Sheffield itself, especially its early past, which is so often eclipsed by an emphasis upon its modern industrial heritage. Not that that should in any way be ignored. The historical industrial past of Sheffield and South Yorkshire is very important. The coalfields and the steel industry are part of the lifeblood that made Victorian England what it was. We're standing here at the moment inside Winkerbank Hill Fort, which is possibly the oldest, almost certainly the oldest construction in South Yorkshire, debarring the stone circles which are to be found at Bradfield. If you look behind me here, you'll see the ramparts of the Iron Age fortress which was constructed prior to the Roman conquest of this country. It stands on a high spur of land overlooking the Don Valley and totally dominates both the Don Valley and the approaches to Sheffield as it is today from Rotherham. The great problem, as I said, with Sheffield is there's a tendency to eclipse its early history with its modern industrial past. It was a very important baronial centre in the medieval period. In fact, Sheffield has the distinction of being the only town to be systematically destroyed during the Barons' Wars between Henry III and Simon de Montfort in March of 1266. We're now looking across the flat plateau-like area enclosed by the ramparts of Winkerbank Hill Fort. Whether or not this would have been permanently inhabited or just used as a means of refuge in time of attack is unclear. Some hill forts seem to have been permanently occupied, some seem to have been only occupied temporarily. Behind me you can see the hills which go over towards Huddersfield, at the moment shrouded in snow. Over there is the next hill fort in this chain, Armonbury. The famous British leader Caractacus led resistance against the Romans after the immediate phases after the Roman invasion, before seeking refuge with his mother's family, the Siluris, who occupied the south of Wales. He eventually sought refuge in northern Britain with the tribe that occupied this area, a tribe called the Briganti, and they handed him over to the Romans, their queen Cartimandau doing so at one of the hill forts on the Briganti frontier. According to legend, that happened at Armonbury, which, as I say, is behind me. As we look down the slope, beyond the ramparts of the actual hill fort itself, we can see the Don Valley, once the beating heart of Sheffield as an industrial city, and one of the most significant industrial landscapes in England.